Welcome to Make and Decorate, a podcast for makers who love to sew, quilt, knit, and decorate. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Make and Decorate with Stephanie podcast. I am your host, Stephanie, and today is a solo episode. I did already post this episode on my YouTube channel. It is done in video form. So this is a little prologue that I'm adding on top of the audio. So I separated the audio track from the video and am now putting it in to my editing software. I just wanted to mention a few things before we got into the recorded episode. I will try to publish the audio alongside, parallel to the video podcasts that get uploaded, but it's not a guarantee. And eventually, I think that everything will run on my YouTube channel. You could still listen to it if you're like in the car from your YouTube app and not watch the video, of course. You could just listen, and you can listen in your sewing studio, wherever you're at. But I'm going to do my best to work this podcast into a video format. And one of the reasons is because I like that you can comment right attached to the video. In fact, I did receive a comment after I posted it, and it was really great, and I was able to reply to them fairly quickly. So I like that interaction, and that's something that is definitely missing from the audio only podcast platforms. So that's one thing. And another thing is, when we get into the audio part of this, because it was video, there might be some things where I'm talking about photos that I'm showing. And so you can just go to my YouTube channel and fast forward if you want to see those photos later on. So it makes the connection. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to also post the photos onto my podcast blog page, but I will try. It just may not be immediately. So over time, I will get this worked out and streamlined a bit better for everyone. And the last thing I want to talk about before we get started is that the sound quality is not as good as it should be. I don't know why separating the audio track from the video does that. It could have just been my recording settings when I did record the video. I did finally upgrade my microphone, but it doesn't really sound upgraded on there, does it? This prologue part I'm recording with the new microphone in the audio recording software, so it will sound better. And then there's a little blurb where I started to record with a wireless lavalier mic, and then I went ahead and switched over to my regular microphone. So anyway, all of that to say that I will try to normalize the audio levels as good as possible, but that's there in the audio version of this episode. All right. So, and then there will be another episode in this month with a guest that will also be video. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoy this episode, and it will be Chit Chat. We're going to talk about pattern matching, fabrics, and foundation paper piecing tips from the way that I do it, and a few audiobook reviews. All right, so here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Make and Decorate with Stephanie podcast. I'm Stephanie, your host, and today will be a solo episode with me. And this is supposed to be the April episode. I'm a few days late. However, there will be another episode later on in the month, and it will be a guest episode. I'm very excited about it. And so for today, we're going to do a little chit chat. And then I have a couple like little mini topics to show you guys. And one of them is how to pattern match your fabric. And my example that I'll show you today is on a quilt backing fabric where I pattern matched the floral. And this pattern matching technique really carries through any type of pattern matching that you might do, even with apparel sewing and bag making. And then the second little topic is foundation paper piecing. I have some photos that I took while I was working on the foundation paper pieced Fairytale Forest quilt top, which is still an ongoing project. But I am just going to show you the way that I do it. There are so many ways to do everything, including foundation paper piecing. So, like I said, I'm just going to show you the way that I developed that I like and I'm very comfortable with. And I think we'll finish it out with a couple of audiobook reviews and one movie review that relates to a book or / audiobook. So that's what's on the agenda today, and let's get started. I guess let's just do a little bit of catch up. One of the reasons why the April episode is late is because there was a lot going on in April, and mostly with issues with my knee. I have been going to physical therapy since February. There has been a little bit of improvement, but I'm dealing with this new diagnosis of arthritis in both of my knees. And then on top of it, I had bone bruising from a fall when I fell off of 2 steps way back in October. So I think that the fall healing is pretty much almost done. There's still a little bit of bruising I can feel, but now we're dealing with the arthritis. And last 2 weeks I've been in excruciating pain. I went back to my ortho, and it turns out that I may have a flipped meniscus. So I'm getting an MRI next week to find out if it is. And if it is, that means that there will be surgery, an orthoscopic surgery. So I am told that it's like a, in and out in the same day, but it's still surgery. And hopefully we don't have to do that. I'm hoping that that's not the case. So anyway, without getting too much into that, that's kind of what I've been dealing with and trying to get everything done that I need to get done. So it's just new for me, this chronic pain. And so I also have H&H America's coming up. And I also wanted to go to the H&H Fabric and Fiber Festival, FFF. And I am actually sitting that out, so I'm not going to that, which is a little bit disappointing. I really wanted to see it because this is the first time that they are doing this show. I do think it will come back next year just because I've just been hearing a lot of buzz. I've seen the list of instructors, and there are a lot of instructors, both well-known and maybe, more well-known in their own niche areas of, like, I don't know, Tunisian crochet. That's its own, and maybe you guys know who these instructors are more than I would. So yeah, the list of instructors looks really great, and they have some very in-depth classes, which was nice to see because some of them are just 90-minute long classes or lectures, and then there are others that are either sort of like a full day, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then I guess it ranges from like a couple hours to 4 hours, I think, or more. So I won't be going to that, but I am going to H&H, and I am only going for 2 days. The first day on Tuesdays before it starts. So Tuesday is just a day for creatives, and they're going to be discussing YouTube. and creating content for YouTube videos. So that I need to be there for, which I will be. I'll just be moving pretty slow. And then the show starts on Wednesday. I have a couple of planned activities to do on Wednesday too, so I don't want to miss those. One of them is I signed up to get the headshot photographs done again this year. And what else? I just got like some meetup plans with some friends and out of town friends, so that's going to be fun. Also, I wanted to do a, all right, let's back up. So the trade show is ginormous now. So when I was thinking about what I was going to focus on, kind of like getting myself a plan of action so that I knew what I was going to do instead of wandering aimlessly through the show. I want to focus on looking at all the new machine introductions for 26, and as well as just taking a look at all the sewing machine vendors out there. And one of them is not a sewing machine company that maybe you might be that familiar with. It's called Reliable, and they have been at the show the past 2 years. And 2 years ago, they introduced a semi industrial machine, but more industrial than, let's say, the Juki semi-industrial one. And then they have more introductions this year. So I am very interested to see what they have, because their machines are definitely more industrial in nature. And they have a very good price point as well. So that's one that I will definitely be visiting and talking to about their new introductions this year. And of course, all of the regulars will be there. Bernina, Janome, Faf, Brother, and Juki, and also long arm machines too will be there. But anyway, so that's what's coming up this coming week. And then, so Monday, work, Tuesday, Wednesday, H&H, and then Thursday will be my MRI on my knee. And then on top of all of that, I have been helping my dad plan my mom's 75th. It's the Diamond Jubilee birthday. So planning the 75th birthday has been taking up a lot of my time in April as well. We're having a custom cake made. It was almost like a whole wedding cake type thing where I talked with the designers at the bakery, had to make an appointment, come in. They brought out little samples of the cakes and frostings. I chose that, and I had this inspiration photo. So beautiful. And in fact, I'll probably pull up a photo for you to see it here. It's so my mom's favorite color, which happens to also be my favorite color, is purple. And so I decided the color theme was going to be purple with a secondary accent color of rose gold. And of course the diamond, white diamond. So that's the color palette, and the cake is also following suit with a very beautiful lavender on the frosting. And then the other thing is I'm like planning this decorating blind because I don't know what the room looks like. And the party is going to be at a venue. It's at actually a local zoo, which sounds kind of silly, but it's not. People have weddings there. They actually have like a whole events department. They have these, the building with the rooms. There's many rooms there from small to large parties. And they have some strict rules. I think this place is the strictest place that I have ever had to plan a party with. And so my dad is actually the one who made all the plans with them. So I'm kind of like asking him questions to ask them. And they're very tight with their information. So one of the things that's not allowed are balloons. And I had planned to make these balloon bouquets for the tables. And that's out the window. So then I was scrambling to find something else because the thing is, there's a lot of grandkids. So, you know, that's a good thing at the zoo because after the party, the zoo will still be open for a couple of hours and then we will, well, they will walk around. I probably will go on this motor safari thing, which is basically like the little golf cart train or whatever that drives around the zoo. That actually is quite fun. However, so I didn't want like these big floral arrangements there where, you know, they would be sitting for the rest of the day in someone's car or have to be lugging them around. So that's why I did the balloon bouquets because they're light and you can just like, you know, pop the balloons or whatever when you're done. I'm not sure, but anyway, I'm rambling. I was asked to order a banner with a photo of my mom. And so then what started out to be kind of like a simple thing ended up being a whole, like, I ended up designing this from scratch. Here's why. Because if you look at 75th birthday stuff out there, Amazon and even the party shops, and I looked Etsy, a lot of different places, and the main colors that they offer are black, and there is a lot of rose gold out there. So that's why I also brought in rose gold, because I needed to incorporate some of the decorations that are ready-made that have rose gold in them, like the guest book signing, that's rose gold. So I designed it in Canva. It took me a while, but I got it to exactly how I wanted it. And I sent it to be printed, and it turned out amazing. It's big. It's like a 3 by 6 foot banner, vinyl banner that will be taped to the wall with painter's tape. And the other thing I did was party favors. And so, which is a good thing I did what I did, not knowing the rules yet, because I didn't get the rules until after the fact. And that is that you're not, like, food items weren't allowed in there. So if I were to have like chocolate gifts, like a lot of times they'll do like those personalized wrappers around chocolate bars or whatever, which could have been an option. But I actually found it's very cute. There are the paper that has wildflower seeds in them. And there's actually little dried flowers actually like pressed into the papers as well. Well, they are die cut into heart shapes. And then they have these glassine envelopes. And then I also designed the little round sticker that says, "Thank you for celebrating so-and-so's 75th birthday with us." So I'm very happy and proud of those. And I'm waiting. Those are coming soon. And so everything seems to be done. Yay! Because that was like totally like pressing. It's like getting closer, and then the turnaround times and all that stuff. So I had to make sure everything was done. All right. So that is on the Saturday. So it's like the entire week is filled with stuff coming up this week. So yeah, that's the start to May. It is fast and furious. But let's go ahead and move into more of the sewing and quilting stuff now. So, pattern matching. I talked about the trip around the world quilt that I made, and I needed to add those 2 rows to the quilt top. So that's done. I've done that. And there's a picture of this on here, I'm going to pull the pictures onto the screen, and so you will see. Then the backing. So the backing fabric, and this quilt is 60 inches wide, I believe, by 70 long. And so it's you're not going to get one width basically of quilt fabric of 42 inches. So there needs to be a seam somewhere. Now, most of the time I will do quilt backings the way that like my workrooms do custom bedding, where you put the center panel of fabric in the center of the back, and then you have two side seams so that there's not one big seam in the center of the back of the quilt. This lap quilt I wasn't going to do that with. It's too small. I mean, for king size, yes, there's definitely enough fabric there to warrant that extra bit of work to make it look better. This one I did do the seam right down the middle, but you don't even know it because of the pattern matching that I did. So I'll share that with you. The fabric that I'm using on the backing is a floral print. It's from Liberty, the quilting fabric, not the Tanalon. It's from the flower, I think the collection was either called Flower Show or Garden. It's from a few seasons ago. Very beautiful. So it's not a huge print, but it's big enough where pattern matching will go a long way. And so when you pattern match, you have to have, I would say, you need extra fabric, in other words. So you can't just go with, okay, a 2 yard and a 2 yard cuts of fabric. You may need 2.5, because you're going to line up that pattern, and the fabric, you're going to have to find the next match, and that's what happened with my fabric. So one of the fabric panels was up this high and the other one was down here. So then you'd end up squaring that off later, but that's where like the pattern starts, like right here, and then you match it going down the length of the backing. So then matching this pattern, and it's harder on quilt fabric. Home deck fabric is a lot easier because it's made with the intent of patterns being matched for draperies and upholstery. So the selvages sort of have a spot where the pattern is printed, I think, on both sides so that you can easily fold it over and whatever. But anyway, I digress. So you just have to kind of, the best way and the more simple way to do it is just not to think too hard about it, but just know that your fabrics are not going to line up because you're lining up the pattern. And once you get the pattern lined up with each other, then there's a little bit of overlap because you have to account for the seam allowance taking up that little bit of space. So then I overlap it a little bit more than right on pattern matching. And then when it's pulled back, it will then be a more perfect, not the perfect, but a more perfect match to the pattern. So I've got photos here to show that. And so I do that. And then I include a 1/2 inch seam allowance, maybe a little bit more, but at least a 1/2 inch, because that then can get trimmed down later on. And then I mark it. So I mark each panel of fabric where that pattern match is at. Then I go through and pin, not clip. You have to pin because it's more precise and you don't want the fabrics moving on you. And it may fall tiny bit out of the pattern match here and there, but if it's for the most part matched and when you look at it from more than like a foot away, it will look perfect. So just try to get it as close as you can. Use pins and pin very close to each other so the fabric does not move. And then you can sew where you've marked that seam, taking your pins out as you sew along. And you can do like sew maybe like 6 inches or so, and then just turn around, make sure you're like on track before you sew the whole thing down. I think that's what I started with, and I did. And it was good because I think I did need to reconnoiter and start again. And then after that, the second time was good to go. Stitched it all the way down, flipped it over, took a look at how it went, and voila, there you have the pattern matched back, and it looks beautiful. And it's just a nice detail to have on a quilt that you can be proud of and that looks gorgeous, especially if you are giving it away as a gift, which this one I am. But you know what? I would do it for myself too. I want pattern matched quilt backings for sure. The only ones I probably won't pattern match is if it's like a mini print. That you can't even tell. So mini prints don't need it, but anything more than like even an inch, you can sort of tell. And I think the more dense of a pattern too, you may not be able to tell so much. But that's what I do for pattern matching. And so it's not as scary or hard as you think. And also, it doesn't have to be as perfect as you think as well, but trying to get it as perfect as you can without going too far overboard. So that is pattern matching. And my other little mini topic is foundation paper piecing, the way that I do it. And let's see, let me share the screen here. I probably should have done that for the pattern matching, but I'll just insert the photos as we go. I'm still kind of getting used to the whole video recording and sharing the screen software thing. So let me see here. All right, and I'm just gonna fast forward through all of these. You'll see them in a minute. Oh, hold on. So this is actually at Legoland. I went to Legoland with my sister, her kids, and my mom. So that is Einstein, of course, behind me, all done in Legos. I have other Lego photos too. Maybe I'll drop them in here, just a few of them. There's a whole room with the entire skyline of Chicago made out of Legos, which is very impressive looking. So this is the Fairytale forest quilt that is pretty much 98% foundation paper pieced, and you can see the different sizes of the triangles, but it is all triangle piecing on foundation papers. And they're done in these quadrants, and it really turns out beautiful. So the part that's not foundation paper pieced is this appliqued little forest cottage, and that will be fun when I get to that part. All right, so this is how this block of the month comes to you if you do sign up for the Fairytale Forest block of the month subscription. It is a 12-month long subscription, and they send out these cute little boxes with the fabrics that are approximately, I think, 9 by 11 size, along with the foundation papers that are printed with the design, the pattern on there, and the background fabric that you need to put in between the triangles. So that comes once a month. And then, so here's my process, which I didn't take a photograph of the first part, which is one of the most important ones, is actually, but you can see them right here, back here. There's a couple of ways that you can cut the fabrics. And one of them is to just cut rectangles out, and which gives you more than enough fabric to work with. However, that works if you have plenty of your own fabrics from your stash to work with. But working from a subscription box where the fabrics that are given are very precise, so there's not room for error. Not very much. However, don't panic. There's easy ways for you to just like alternate or somehow, work it out. But it did take me a little while because I did try it with the rectangles, but again, it took up too much fabric. And then I decided to do it the other way, which is to add a 1/2 inch around the entire shape. So what I did is I made templates out of these shapes, and these triangles are used again and again throughout the quilt top, and especially the one that you see here on the screen, this sort of almost equilateral type triangle. So I print out this onto printer paper, and I use my light. This is my light board, and I love it. I have on top of this light board is a cutting mat. So this has come in very, very handy for foundation paper piecing, and has made it very nice and efficient during the process. So here you can see through the box, and you can see that this dashed line is the seam line and the solid line is the cut line. So you have to have enough fabric to cover all the way to the seam line, and at least at a minimum. So the hard part about foundation paper piecing is that you're working from the back side of the printout, or the back side ends up being the face to the quilt, and so you're putting the fabrics on basically the wrong side and stitching, and then it's going to flip onto the back of the paper, and then that is the right side up. So anyway, first off is what I do is I cut out all the shapes in one box, and usually there are 2 big blocks with 8 smaller blocks within them. So I will cut all of the shapes out first, and I did find that just cutting these triangles with a 1/2 inch of a seam allowance on all sides worked best, and it was easiest for my eye coordination onto the paper backwards to have the shape versus a rectangle where you have to just envision the shape of the triangle without seeing it. And the 1/2 inch gives you plenty of fabric to play with, and to have, as you can see, I have plenty in the over the cut line on the bottom and the top here, and you can see where the little light holes are from where I stitched the seam line there. So basically what we're seeing here is the paper side of this block, and I have it flipped over because I just stitched this piece onto it. And after you stitch and you flip it, you can see it just makes it to that cut line, barely to that cut line once it's pressed open. So basically then I will have to trim it out. And here it is flipped over to the right side, the facing side of the quilt top. So the light board is on and you can see the seam allowance here through it. But you can also see how it's flipped now over to this side. And now the next line, which is this one here, this is the next triangle, that is where I will need to put the next fabric on to that line with about a 1/2 inch overhang. And then it will be flipped over again to this side, and then I will be able to stitch right on the line. And that is basically the process of foundation paper piecing for me. After I stitch it, then you flip the paper back, and this is my add a quarter ruler. I have the small 6-inch one, and then right here is the 12-inch one. So you snug that up against the folded back paper, and that gives you your 1/4 inch seam where you can then trim it down. And that pretty much is the extent to, oops, what's happening here? There we go. There this is after I trimmed it. So there's a nice and neat 1/4 inch seam allowance. And oh, this is just kind of out of sequence, but I do use a glue stick. I actually use my quilting glue stick, but this will use up a lot of glue, and I ran out of refills, so I found this Elmer's glue stick, and it works perfectly great. I just dab a little bit of glue here for that fabric to lay flat on, because that's the other thing. When you flip this to then lay another piece of fabric along this line, this can tend to buckle or fold, and then you end up with a mess, and then you have to rip it all out. So I do like to glue the fabric onto the paper for the next seam line stitch. And here is a finished block. I still have the light on behind it. That's why it looks a little bit darker here, because it's got the light board on. But aren't these beautiful fabrics? This is all Liberty Tanalon. So gorgeous. So this is one of the 8 blocks that then get sewn together to form a large block. Here it is with the light off. There we go. Now we can see it. So here's another thing. I did have to rip out a couple of places, and you can see the little needle holes in here, but when I go to press some more, steam will help to open the fibers up so that they can sort of close again and dry with the weave back into place. So it's something where you could panic at first when you see that, but they will come out with some steam. And then here are the 4 segments to a big block. So this is 1 4 block, 4 block, 4 blocks, and 4 blocks. You don't see the whole thing, but that's how this is. So there is the forest coming together in this Fairytale forest quilt. And that is, we'll go back to the regular stop sharing here. That is the foundation paper piecing tips that I wanted to share with you as I continue to sew through all of these Fairytale forest trees. And I will say it is time consuming. It's very time consuming, much more than I ever thought it would be. But you get into a rhythm, and if you're not into a big hurry, then it's just kind of like this ongoing project. I do understand why it is a 12-month long project. And for those of you, they just started a new one. So they have these subscriptions open about twice a year. And then they've just started the spring one. And then I think they'll probably do another one around Christmas time. And so it's a nice block of the month. You can work at your own speed, which is basically what I'm doing. And because I have all my boxes now, as I was finishing that other quilt last year. It's foundation paper piecing is still not my favorite, but I don't have that like sort of like ick sort of thing reaction to foundation paper piecing, because I understand it so much better now. And after working with this project where the entire thing is foundation paper pieced, what also is nice is that it's not the type of foundation paper piecing where it's like a fractured stained glass design or where all the shapes are very irregular. This is all very regular shapes. And I don't know, I guess I probably do better with that. And it's also when you see the finished outcome of even just the blocks when they're done, it's very fun and exciting, and it's fun to see how precise those points are with foundation paper piecing. So if you are like me, where I kind of shied away from it for a long time, try it again. Also, what helps too is just how you learn and who you learn it from. So if perchance, you don't see things the same way as, let's say an instructor has in a certain class that you may have taken either online or in person, there are so many other ways out there. That's where YouTube kind of does come in handy, because you can search for the topic and you will see so many different ways of something being done. So then you have to experiment and then just decide what works for you, and whatever works, the outcome is the same thing. So you might as well figure out a way that is fun and easy to do, rather than trying to do it the right way, and it'll be more fun. So I do enjoy the foundation paper piecing now. And it's nice. It's very, very nice. So I will give you more updates on the progress of this quilt as I keep going along. Okay, we're almost done. So now I have some book reviews. And these, I have a couple of books that I want to read on my Kindle, but I just have not had the time to just read. And when I do, like, my eyes are closing because I am so tired from the day. So I do tend to listen to audiobooks a lot more than I do reading books these days. So there are, let's see, I got to find my notes on this because, here they are. Okay. So here's a book that I just finished listening to or reading. And here, I want to say something else too, because my husband makes fun of me for audiobooks when I say, like, oh, I read that audiobook. Okay, so I didn't read it, but I listened to it, and there is something to be said about the skill of comprehension. So listening and comprehending is also as much of a skill as your eyeballs reading words on a page. That's what I have to say about that. So Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. This is not a new release. It's from 2021. And this author I found is actually local to Illinois, to the Chicagoland area. And this book is set, and I didn't know anything about this author when I started reading it. And then it was after I read the book, and then I went to another book of hers, and then I'm like, where is she from? Because this is all about Chicago. And sure enough, she is from here. So in this book, it is not stated where this is at. It's just, you know that it's in the Chicago area. And I believe that this is set in Naperville, Illinois, a far west suburb of Chicago, because, again, it never names the city, but it mentions Riverwalk. And Naperville has a very nice Riverwalk, and it has its own downtown with about 50 restaurants. And there is also a river, the DuPage River. So lots of things pointing to Naperville here in this book, because I am a local and I know where this is at, Naperville. So anyway, the plot. A local woman goes missing in a low crime neighborhood, and parallel to this is a girl that's being held captive. And I will say, the start of this book is slow and depressing because it is setting the story and these characters, and it's about the girl being held captive. So if you can just get through the first 2 chapters, it then sort of expands and explodes from there with very good story and characters and mystery. So and the way this book goes is that it goes back and forth between characters as far as the main and the secondary in 2 time periods that are set 11 years apart. So it's back then and then now, then 11 years ago and now. So that was easy to follow because it says 11 years ago. So it wasn't too hard to decipher which time period that they were in. And I don't want to give too much of this away, but again, my final thoughts are, if you can get through the first 2 chapters, the wait will be worth it. It's a very well-written crime mystery, and I think the term nowadays to some of these crime thrillers is that it is a psychological crime thriller. The other cool thing is that this crime story is not focusing on the detectives, but there are detectives in the story. It's really focused on the missing people and the people in their worlds back then and now. And it's not one that you can figure out in the first few chapters, which is good. I like that. I don't really love when I can figure it out right away. And just when you think you know it, it's not. And although I did figure it out in the last third part of the book. So, or even further, or maybe 2/3. Sorry. Yeah, well, that is the last third. What am I doing? Okay. So that is Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. Another book that I read about a month ago is called The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. This book is from 2022 and was published. And it is set in the 40s, World War II, mostly in Russia, but then the characters come over to the United States later on in the book. So the storyline is that this is based on a true story about Mila Pavlichenko, who is a mother and a wife, and she becomes this deadly sniper during World War II. Russian, and she becomes famous for her 300, technically it's 309 kills, sniper kills, and has become Russia's high command, sorry, Russia's high command then notices this. They pull her off the front lines, and then they send her to the United States on this goodwill tour to try to drum up support and American support for a second front in Europe. And she and First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt become these unlikely friends. And also, there's a secondary storyline where there is this nefarious new enemy of Mila that services in the United States. So it's a very good book. It's interesting that it's a true story because I do not remember hearing about this. I may have, but it's a very good story. The storytelling is very easy to follow. It does transport you to that time. And I was thinking that as an American, we know a lot about World War II as far as our history, but little about other countries that were involved in the same war, like Russia. So because it was based on a true story, after I heard the book, I went and researched it, of course. And there's a very good, I'll put the link in the description, but there's a good Smithsonian Magazine article, and her name is Ludmila Pavlichenko. So Ludmila, Mila for short. And it's very good. So the book doesn't stray too far from the actual story, but there are other facts that I read about and learned about this person and the relationship with Eleanor Roosevelt. And it's so very interesting. So The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. Okay, and the last book I'll talk about today is another Mary Kubica book, and it's called She's Not Sorry. This is set in Chicago's north side of the city, and it's another psychological thriller because I guess this is what this author does, and I do like it. The story centers around Megan, who is a single mom. She is a nurse in a hospital intensive care unit, and a head trauma patient comes into the ICU and is one of her patients that she works with. And this patient is said to have jumped off a bridge from 20 feet high, so down to train tracks. And so it starts kind of like that. And again, there's just a lot of sort of meandering, it gets you to think, and you're really trying to follow everyone's story and to find out how this woman either jumped off the bridge or was pushed or is, plus I think there's like the serial killer running around. So there's a lot going on with this book, and it's good. It's good. It's not like my favorite, but and I probably would be disappointed with it if it didn't pick up and end the way it ended at the end of the story. So take that for what you will. But it's called She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica. And yeah, I've had to find other authors because I've completely, thoroughly exhausted my favorite, Frida McFadden. And speaking of Frida, they just released the movie into, it's on Stars right now. If you have the Stars subscription, it's the Housemaid, is what it's called. And the Housemaid is an entire series of several books. and I've listened to them all, and I love that series. Love it. So I watched the movie, and the movie is basically Cliff Notes. It's like a Cliff Note version of the book. So it just kind of like focuses on certain highlights of the book. The movie is okay. It's not terrible, but it's just, I think this is now like, I mean, I have read other books before the movies were released, but a lot of times I haven't. Like with the Harry Potter movies, I never read the books. But so when you read the book, of course, you know all of the details throughout the book, comparing it to the movie, what's missing, what was embellished. And I'm not so sure that anything was embellished so much as just a lot of stuff left out. And also, there's this character his name is Enzo, and he is the landscaper, and he had a lot more in the book of involvement, and he was barely in this movie. So anyway, it is on Stars. So if you've read the book, you can, and you watch the movie, and you let me know if you think the same thing. But basically, I just think it's just the Cliff Notes version of the book. So before the next movie comes out, read the next Housemaid book in the series by Frida McFadden. All right. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I want to say thank you so much for continuing to support this podcast of mine, this little podcast. And just remember also, please, to subscribe on my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get at least 1,000 subscribers so that I can then graduate towards other things that they unlock. For and all transparency, for monetary, what do you call it? Like you have to qualify basically in order to start any of that. So subscribe and like the video, and I will be back in a few more weeks with a guest. My guest is going to be Melody Harmony from So Harmony. She is the designer of the quilting stencils that I talked about a few episodes ago. All right, so just remember to take some time to make and decorate. Bye-bye.